Digimon Survive is not a very good game. It is not worth my time. That's what I thought around chapter 4 or so, when I considered dropping the game. I read that it got better later on, and since there was still quite a lot of plot to go, I pressed on. After all, the game was often praised in reviews for its great characters and mature dark story. The premise had some promise, the characters had a lot of hours left to develop, and it was my very first Digimon game. I was enjoying seeing all the different weird designs and evolutions. So, another chapter couldn't hurt, right? I think you can tell from the title of this video, it never really got good. I finished Digimon Survive with a sigh of relief, and 30 pages were the frustrated notes on the gameplay, the story, and its characters. Digimon Survive is a terrible game, and it's not worth anyone's time. I'm sure there's a lot of morbidly curious people who'd hear such a statement thinking, it can't be that bad, right? Or, I kinda wanna try it now. So to save everybody the trouble, I'm stomping all of those 30 pages full of personal notes into a video and bringing them directly to you. Sit back, relax, grab some snacks, and watch my brain cells slowly diminish as I try to survive. Before we start off, a little context on Digimon Survive as a game. It was originally announced in 2018 with a 2019 release date, but ended up actually releasing a few years later on July 29th in 2022. It suffered a lot of delays due to the pandemic and the project being completely reworked at one point. Digimon Survive was not always advertised as a visual novel first and a tactical RPG second, with a lot of the negative response at launch being that people had expected the game to be something it was evidently not. I ended up playing it this year on Nintendo Switch, and I knew very well what I was getting myself into. Around 70% visual novel, 30% tactical RPG. Looking around for reviews, I found mostly positive impressions, praising the darker tone, the story, and the characters. Considering I am someone who values stories in games very highly, and this being my very first experience with the franchise, besides hearing about it in comparison to Pokemon, I was excited. I had little reason to think this would be one of the worst stories I'd ever have to sit through, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. With all that said, let's dive into it. We start the game off, not with any of the colorful kits on the box art, but two different kits running from something in fear as their Digimon try to protect them. One of them has the recognizable silhouette of Renamon, which I already know even as a non-fan, but the other one I've never seen before. A tutorial battle happens explaining the basics of the combat. Is the usual grid system, like Fire Emblem, with attacks from the side or back doing more damage. One interesting tidbit is that the two children show up in the battle with their own health bars, but this is the only instance where human characters show up during an actual battle. Perhaps a scrapped idea they ended up not implementing. We try to fight back, but get overpowered by the unknown enemy enveloped in a black fog. The girl gets pulled into a shadow portal by a bunch of hands, and the boy gets sucked into a light portal to who knows where. One tutorial fight later, we get introduced to our main cast through a rather nice anime cutscene, though it is sadly the only one in the entire game. We have Takuma, our main character with the obvious main character goggles on. We have Aoi, the class president and the motherly caring worrywart of the cast. Minoru, a laid-back jokester with an interest in superheroes. And besides these three friends, Saki is also in their class, who just comes over as a cheerful gal who hangs around Ryo, a boy who is pretty stuck up and antagonistic to everybody while also being a massive coward. Finally, at school we have Shuji, who is a leader of the class group barking orders around, making sure the students stay in line. We meet Miu and Kaito a bit later, but they already get shown off in the animated cutscene as Miu runs away from home and Kaito goes looking for her. Mio comes over mischievous, while Kaito is just a worried older brother with a temper. The last people to get shown off are some old guy waking up in the forest, and then the two kids from the tutorial appear in a rundown school building, while the girl sings to the young boy. Guess they're not dead then, all is well. The school is on a class trip and staying at some old school building, while they're tasked with checking out some cultural landmark for today. We make our way over there, but the road is blocked due to a series of earthquakes happening lately. Miu pops up, convincing Saki and Ryu to go check out a shrine in the area. All the kids are around 14 to 15 years old, with the exception of Saki and Miu. Saki is 12, but certainly doesn't look like it, and Miu is 11 and seems a little bit more believable for her age. As every character that matters gets introduced, we make our way to the shrine after running into Kaito and Shuji, who will help with the search. We go through some foreboding tunnel, explore a forest full of red spider lilies, and then finally make it to the shrine, with no Miu, Saki or Ryu in sight. We come across a cave with odd murals, where the professor gets introduced, who is apparently investigating the culture here that worshipped Kemonogami, whatever those are. We run across a Digimon. The characters don't know what it is, but it's pretty obviously a Digimon, who in this world are thus called Kemonogami, and this group of Gotsumon is ready to stamp a hole into our chests. A massive earthquake hits, and everyone gets separated, during which time Takuma meets Koromon, a weird pink talking little bunny creature. Takuma is scared of the unknown creature at first, but then just automatically feels like he can trust it, since it's their digi-destiny to be friends, I suppose. Takuma takes another hit like a champ, protecting Koromon from an attacking Gotsumon, which then results in Takuma's feelings making him evolve permanently into the iconic Agumon. This is going to be one of many cases of one of those things. Something happens that the Digimon themselves cannot explain, but they still feel that is correct, and it doesn't require explanation to longtime fans, but just sounds a little odd to a newcomer like me. Koromon feels a burst of energy from within him and evolves into Agumon as a response to Takuma's feelings. What feelings cause evolution seems completely random. The plot dictates it pretty much, but I don't particularly mind. Digivolutions are cool enough that they get an easy pass. Now, Gotsumon gets shown with black fog and red eyes in these scenes, like he's clearly supposed to be a threat, but the design itself isn't really all that scary to me. It's a little rock goblin who's very strong compared to humans, so its strength is certainly intimidating, but I just didn't really feel that scared of him, especially when Takuma takes multiple direct hits and seems fine, not in need of treatment or to any wounds or whatever. The start of the game really tries to feel tense, and some reviews even claimed it to be close enough to horror, but besides one jump scare and Gotsumon getting some scary filter on his face, didn't exactly put me on edge nor scare me, because I also don't care for these characters yet, when they've introduced all of them at such a quick fire pace. Anyway, Agumon deals with Gotsumon because he's a cool little dinosaur now and not a pink pancake bunny, and we go looking for the others.
やってやるぞ。
ミノルくん、何してるの？
俺がこいつを何とかするから、葵さんは逃げて。
ダメよミノルくん、危ないわ。
相手が一匹ならなんとかなるかも。ヒーローになれ。
ダメミノルくん。
そこまでだ。
この子たちに近づかないで。
増えた。この狼藉者め、これ以上は俺が許さん。
あなたのことは私が守ってあげる。
お前たちもう大丈夫。こんな数無理だ。
ミノルくん、どこ行くの？一人で行っちゃダメ。
After Agumon and Takuma become friends for life, I guess, we meet up with Minoru and Aoi, who have their respective Digimon by now, Falcomon and Labramon, though they don't exactly get along right away. They both see them as monsters that are out to hurt them, but after they protect them from more Gotsumon out for blood, they become fast friends. We decide that it's too dangerous to stick around in the forest and thus make our way back to the school, but there is no tunnel to be found. When we eventually find the school, the building is completely dilapidated, like the school has been standing abandoned for centuries. The kids try to figure out how it is possible that the lay of the land and their school changed completely in a matter of hours. Later on, we then also find Ryo, who's completely freaking out and has an odd little caterpillar Digimon, Kunemon, for a partner. Kunemon is the only Digimon partner so far who can talk and is relatively weak in battle too. And Ryo is more scared of him than anything, even as the little bug fights to protect him. They don't have long to think on their situation though. Aoi soon gets kidnapped by a spider-like monster that was living in the old school, and we explore around trying to find where she's being held. The music during this part of the game is a track we'll hear many times throughout the game. And if you aren't already sick of it after this chapter is over, they make sure you will be by the end of the game. We find Haru and Miyuki in the school, the two kids from the tutorial section, but they seem a tad different from the introduction. Miyuki seems like a hollow shell, just repeating words her little brother says, and Haru acts completely unbothered by the fact there's deadly monsters roaming around. Haru seems to know more than he lets on, and isn't in an especially helpful mood, but thanks to his sister finding our goggles is especially fashionable. He tells us that Aoi is probably being held in the gym, with the spiders sneaking through the vents to get around. The door to the gym is all webbed up, impossible to enter, but Haru reveals a hidden passage to us so we can go and save our friend. The two kiddos have apparently been living here for longer, so they know their way around, but gallant hero Takuma shall not simply leave these tiny toddlers to their own devices. They join our crew, but having no Digimon, essentially just follow along for the most part, always sticking together. With this new info, we find the passageway and make our way into the Spider-Mon's lair. Aoi is webbed up against the wall, but before we can set her free, we get attacked by a group of Dokugumon. This section has been structured kind of horror-like, with our enemy being out of sight and potentially coming out to strike at any point. They even have a jump scare with a ghostly Haru appearing behind us and us crawling through a vent like something will jump out at us in the darkness. And the grand climax is just a spider with little Mickey Mouse hands. The music certainly tries its best to set the scary mood, but nothing really endangers anyone here, except the slow pacing endangering my patience. Once we hit the battlefield, Dokugumon goes from a scary kidnapper to a punching bag anyway. One Agumon evolution later, turning him into Tyrannomon in my playthrough, we wipe the floor with the big bad spider brigade, and save Aoi, who seems to be unharmed for the most part. After saving her, we regroup, wondering what our next step should be. For some reason, the water in the building is still running, there's plenty of emergency food, the first aid kit is seemingly brand new, but there's no phone reception. The Digimon mentioned that there's a dangerous fog in the forest that everybody should stay away from at all costs, though they can't explain to us why exactly. It's one of those things. This will be the status quo from now on. The old school as our home base, spider bad, fog very bad, and a bunch of kids wondering if they'll ever make it home again.